All right, y'all. This week, me and my best friend are reading a book called The Genius Zone by Hendricks, PhD, and here are the top 3 lessons that I have taken away from my reading thus far. Before I tell you what they are, comment below and let me know if you've read this book, if you've heard about it, or if any of the lessons that I share resonate with you, or if you have any personal stories in your life that resonate with these lessons. Where'd my image go? Okay, it's back. Lesson number 1. So much of our anxiety comes from trying to control things or people that are completely out of your control. This author shares so many interesting insights about their own journey with struggles in relationships, with always worrying about if the person loved them back, a lot of insecure, deep things from their childhood that they were then projecting onto their partners, and how freeing themselves of trying to control whether another person loved them or liked them or cared about them by just talking about the anxiety openly and asking them. So often we just need to ask for what we want. Do you care about me? Getting that reassurance. Something that he said is a helpful mantra that you can take into your journaling practice is to ask yourself, what am I trying to control that is completely not in my power, and how can I let that go? 2, connection is liberation. The author shares this story about how he gives a public speech. Someone comes up to him after and he says, I loved your speech. And he's like, what did you love about it? And the guy says, well, what I loved is that when you were stuttering and when you were stumbling over your words, it made me feel seen because I do that too. And then suddenly he's in his head. He's like, am I stumbling over my words? Am I nervous in front of the audience? Is this how everyone's perceiving me? And he had to go through this whole emotional journey to realize he cannot control how other people see him when he is giving speeches. He can't control how he is perceived. He can't control what people think of him. All he can control is if he goes onto that stage and gives the speech. So something that he can do to connect with the audience to alleviate this anxiety that is now, bubbling up inside of him is to tell the audience, I'm really nervous. Here's what happened last week. Someone told me that this is how they perceived me. And now I'm thinking, is that how y'all were perceiving me? And so often naming the thing, it builds that connection with whoever you're talking to, whether it be a relationship, a colleague, or in this case, an entire audience full of people, and it dissolves the anxiety by just giving a name to it. 3, the genius zone is where you make the decision that your most enlightened self would make in any sort of situation. So he gives this example where he talks about one of his family members comes to him for money. It seems like he is the most successful member of his family, likely because he's a best-selling author. It seems like he's a speaker that tours around the world. He was on Oprah, etc., etc. This family member is like, I would like this amount of money because I have this tax lien and I can't afford it. And could you please help me? And I'll totally pay you back. And then the author is sharing, okay, well, this same family member has come to me 5 times before and has asked for a loan and has never paid it back. And he's like, what would the genius zone be in this moment? He's like, I do want to help this family member. Obviously, I love them, but I also want to set a boundary because I don't want to be constantly anxious around them with money. So what he decides to do, which I think is very smart, is he says, instead of saying that you're going to give this back as a loan, let's look at past behavior. You haven't paid back the loans. So let's not call it a loan. Let's call it a gift. I'm going to give you this money because I care about you and I want you to be able to meet your financial things. And he internally is like, I can't control your relationship with money. I can't control your relationship with prosperity. What I can control is how I give this money to you and the boundary that I set. So he gives the money freely. He says, it's a gift. No worries. I love you. Let this totally take care of whatever you need to take care of. But let's make a rule that for the next 18 months, you can't come to me for any money requests because I'm giving this full amount of money. You're not expected to pay it back. I love you. I support you. But for the next 18 months, I want our relationship to not have that anxiety of at any moment you might ask me for even more money. Let me know in the comments if you think he did the right thing, because I thought it was actually because I was worried that he wasn't going to help his family member. And I was like, bro, if you're rich, you should totally help your family member. If you are the wealthy one in your family, redistribute that wealth, baby. But I just thought it was a really sweet and enlightened way to preserve the relationship, give it as a gift, because then that also takes the pressure off of the person, ideally, that they wouldn't have to worry about paying back this money because clearly they can't afford it. Clearly they're in a financial position where they don't have the money. And I think when there's the power imbalance like that, the best thing to do is just give directly and not ask for any sort of thing in return. And so I thought he handled it pretty well. Those are the 3 lessons that I have taken from this book so far. I will report back if I learn more things from this book. I do recommend it. My only sort of asterisk warning is that this is a book that was written and published prior to some of the frameworks that we operate from now. As a fat person, I feel like the book does engage in a little bit of body shaming and fat phobia and adherence to diet diet culture, which is like, why would that even be in a book like this? Like, this is supposed to be about personal motivation. But like, if we just remember of like the 80s, 90s, 2000s, early 2000s, like the way people talked about diet culture was so different than we do now. They didn't have necessarily the tools to like talk more thoughtfully about it. So going into that, that's kind of like a trigger warning, I guess. But apart from that, and some like just general, like when a white guy writes something, there's going to be, some white guy stuff, but like the overall things that come out of this book, I think there's a lot of like good things to take from it, and notably just like releasing this need to control situations that you can't control, because that's where a lot of our anxiety comes from, trying to control our relationships, control our life path, when everything in nature is just doing its thing. We don't know what's going to happen. You have to like do that Buddhistic dharma of is that the right word? Like the Buddhism of, that the parable of the guy on the raft who, like, there's the river that's like rushing down, and like he, in order to just surrender, he has to like let go of the raft. I think it's called the parable of the raft, and I'm pretty sure because I talked about it in my graduate thesis, so I should know about this. But anyways, let's talk about secular Buddhism another day. But I love you. Hope you check out this book. Let me know what you think, and I'll be back soon with more rambles and rombles. Okay, bye.